So you're stimulating a bit of debate here, and I think Iracema wants to say something, and Heather wants to say something.
I really think it's an interesting approach, because where I'm coming from, it's like we have an opportunity here to push government and for government to push, legal and social structures to make the changes that we need. And you're talking about a situation in which individually we should be looking at how do we now sort of invest in ourselves and take care of ourselves. The question that I have is, and I've never been able to reconcile this, is like, how do you, as a person who earns, and many people do, right above minimum wage, have to support your kids, yourself, etc., be able to do that? I mean, how do you? I don't understand that. Because
I think that's a great question, and
because eating kind of gets in the way.
Eating does get in the way, but it's not an even flow that you have. So maybe that family comes to their tax moment and they have their EITC check and they don't know what it is before they go into the tax preparer. But maybe they're getting their first time they see $3,000 additional at the end of the tax moment. What the Obama administration has proposed is an expanded saver's credit. What if you could take 500 of that? It's part of the code right now. Have it matched with another $500, put it in a secure account, and let that family, it's not their diaper choice or their food choice, it's just something, they're not going to have a pension. Those jobs are gone. I think of the River Rouge plant, if you had that job in manufacturing a car, once you had the ID card, you had a pension for life, you had a way to buy a house. That job, you're right, the industrial policy for that isn't here. Maybe some of them will make some manufacturing gains, but so we're going to look for, it is federal policy. I'm thinking about things like automatic IRAs. I'm thinking about expanded savers credits. Why is it that the very retirement policies that have been so skewed, they're completely skewed to support people like me, people at the top of the income agenda, instead of vastly down for those same households? So I think that's the moment that we can reward, and I think it is federal tax policy.
And then the other thing I was just going to say, or maybe we could just, sort of change the way we operate in this country, be more like Europe, and make sure that everybody in this country has health care, pension care, and access to education, and that also would take care of some of these issues. But I'm not.
How about that?
Just,
Yeah. So yes, all right, Heather, and I think what we'll do is these are some very interesting questions. We'll open the questions up to you. You may have some questions, and then we're going to come back to Alan and Rinku. So Heather, yes.
Well, I want to take issue with the notion that wages may be stuck. I think that we do ourselves a huge disservice by accepting the right-wing frame on that particular question. Our economy is more productive than it was. Our GDP has continued to grow. It is not that our economy has not been productive. It is not that we have not seen gains in our economy. It is that those gains have gone almost entirely to the folks at the very, very tippy top, people that I don't think any of us have ever met, of the income distribution. Or maybe you have. I apologize. Maybe they're like your, but those gains have not been shared equal. It's not just that they haven't been shared equal, they haven't been shared at all in recent decades. And that we do ourselves no service by saying, think big, right? The way to think big is to say, the workers of this country deserve a share of what it is that they produce. And it was only through organizing workers in the first part of the century that those manufacturing jobs were good jobs. 100 years ago, they were the crappiest jobs in the economy. People died and they worked 12 hours a day. They were bad jobs, and they were jobs that disproportionately were immigrants and children and all sorts of things. We've made good jobs out of them. That's what we have to do. Again, we cannot accept that frame.
And I would only put in that part of my frame about why wage rates may be stuck, and I'm not a labor economist, so it's global. Where they're also...
No, but again, our economy continues to grow. The globalization has not led to GDP declines. The economy continues to grow. So yes, yes, but that again, that's the right wing saying to us, oh, we can't grow because of globalization. No, somebody is gaining. It's just not that that's coming out in terms of wages. Most of it went to Wall Street, and look what they've done to us. They created a bunch of wealth for themselves, then they destroyed the wealth that many of us had. That's, it's...
So we're talking about the structures of inequality that exist and that have been growing. And, you know, some people are talking about transnational labor organizing now, and that's a whole other issue there in terms of the global economy now and what this means and how we address these issues. Let me open this to you for just a couple of questions. I think, do we have microphones on the side? If you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphones to ask your question, and then we're going to turn back to the panelists. And before you ask your question, if you would please introduce yourself so we'll know where you're coming from with your question.
I'm Ellen Silber. I'm with the Fordham University. Is this working?
Yes,
Okay.
we're hearing
I'm
you.
with the Fordham University Graduate School of Social Service, and I direct Mentoring Latinas, and you can use your imagination about what that's for. One of you briefly mentioned daycare.
Briefly mentioned what?
Daycare. Nobody in the government has mentioned daycare. Nobody's talking about some great program for daycare as part of healthcare or the economy or energy or anything. And it seems to me that that impacts women as much as any of the issues that we're talking about. And I always wonder why it doesn't get mentioned. Obama doesn't talk about daycare, and I'm crazy about him, but I'm not crazy about that.